Well, it's kind of a Genesis week, so we thought we'd share with you a lot of our interviews surrounding and connected to the band Genesis. This time, Anthony Phillips. We're going to be talking to Brian Coombes, who just released last year a tribute album to Ant on Rock History Music. Brian Coombes, who is the leader of Rocking Horse Music Club and Rocking Horse Studio, put it all together. Which Way the Wind Blows was released last October. Coming up in a few days, we're going to be doing a track by track. Remember, we have one of those coming up with Graham Gouldman of 10cc with his brand new album on the 20th of this month. We're going to be doing this in just a few days on Which Way the Wind Blows. Brian's going to sit down with us and we're going to talk about every single last track. And there's some special guests on here you'll hear Brian talk about, like Steve Hackett, who came into Genesis after Ant left. And one of my favorite vocalists, Noel McCalla, who was the voice of Mike Rutherford's first solo album, Small Creeps Day. He's going to be our guest in the next couple of days. It's kind of an exciting time to be a Genesis fan. Our conversation with Brian Coombes, talking about Ant Phillips and that tribute album.
How did this project come to fruition? Initial idea, share that with us.
Michael Clifford, who is the managing director at a venue in East Sussex called Trading Boundaries, is a big prog fan. Trading Boundaries is kind of a bastion, it's an oasis of prog rock in Winnie the Pooh country in East Sussex. Steve Hackett does a Christmas show there every year. Rocking Horse Music Club played a show there in 2018 of our own original material. And I got to talking to Michael about every year they do a Genesis weekend, and it's usually around Easter. And Michael knew that I was a big Genesis fan and knew that I was friends with Ant Phillips. So he asked about the possibility of us doing a Genesis solo tribute show. And I said, yeah, if it's Ant Phillips, I'd love to do it. So that started as just an idea. And then in January, I went to England to meet with Michael, and then Michael and I both met with Ant, and we decided, yeah, this is viable. And again, Ant kept wondering, he didn't know what the audience for something like this was going to be. And Michael, who does this thing for a living, this is what he does, promoting shows, said that there would be an audience for this. So I said to Ant, I said, look, if Michael's game for this, let's just put it out there that we're going to do these shows and see what happens. And the reaction, we got a positive reaction. So it was kind of, let's keep going until we can't or until we have to commit. And once the tickets were on sale and reaction was good, we thought, all right, the shows are good. And then I thought, if we're going to do shows and my guys are going to have to learn the material, why don't we use the studio as a vehicle for learning the material? So that's exactly what we did. We picked the songs and we got into the studio and we treated it as if we were doing somebody else's project, unlike a singer-songwriter that we would work with here ordinarily. And we used the original recordings as, and I don't mean to demean them, but we used them as the demos. And we thought, all right, what would we do with these songs in 2019? And we plucked them off one by one by one. And I'm really fortunate that I've got an amazing group of musicians that work with me here at the studio. And I think they've seen that I tend to get things done and that when I'm determined to do something, we usually make it happen. So they kind of glad. It didn't take much to get them to go along with me. And luckily, they're an amazing group of musicians. They're an amazing group of people. And like I say, before we knew it, we had the record done.
Tell me about some of the special guests. We'll talk about this again with the individual songs, but just tell me about some of the special guests you have on there.
Yeah, so we were, very fortunate to get Ant's replacement in Genesis, Steve Hackett, to play lead guitar. He plays lead guitar on the title track, which is Which Way the Wind Blows. That song also features Noel McCalla, who was the lead vocal on Mike Rutherford's first solo album, Small Creeps Day. So again, as a Genesis fan, I just thought, that's so cool. I mean, where else are you going to get Noel McCalla and Steve Hackett playing on an Anthony Phillips song. And it was cool to bring those people together. So those guys are on the record. John Helliwell from Supertramp plays saxophone on Nightmare, which also features a young female singer-songwriter from here in New Hampshire, a woman by the name of Caroline Carter. We had her on another project come in and doing an improv background vocal part that ended up being this wailing, great gig in the sky type of thing. So when you combine Caroline doing her great gig in the sky on the end section of Nightmare, and you add John Helliwell playing saxophone, it turns into a very big Pink Floyd influence. And apart from Genesis, Pink Floyd was probably my biggest musical influence. So I was happy to get that on the record. Another person who I absolutely adore, and I adore her talents, is Kate St. John, who was in a band called Dream Academy. Kate played oboe on a track, and she had played on sessions for me before, and she's an amazing talent. Steve Hackett's brother John plays flute on one of the songs, and I think it's cool that he had played on the original version from 1977. So here he was all these years later doing, playing on the remake. Nick Magnus, the keyboard player, for me, I was exposed to him on the first group of Steve Hackett solo records. Plays a blistering keyboard solo at the end of Silver Song. And it's so great. I mean, I'm playing keyboards on most of the record, but I don't consider myself a keyboard player. I'm more of a producer who happens to play keyboards. Pat Gochez, who's in the band with me as well, played all the piano parts. But neither one of us would call ourselves a blazing prog rock keyboard player. So to have Nick come in and play a legitimate prog rock solo was something pretty special.
Remember, coming up in a couple of days, we'll have the Which Way the Wind Blows, our own version of a premiere, even though it's been out since October. We want to present it to you because I'd be remiss if I didn't present this on our sister channel just to show you how brilliant, how beautiful this album is. In the beginning, Ant wasn't really sure that he wanted it done, but he's such a humble guy, that's why, and there was interest for it. So Brian Coombes and I will go track by track on Rock History Book, our sister site, our sister channel. There'll be links in the description of this video. Make sure you share our videos, comment on them, and subscribe to our channel. We need you as a subscriber. And click on the bell notification too, and support the channel by buying a t-shirt. Links in the description. I'm John Beaudin from Rock History Music.